everyone, you're welcome back to my channel. My name is Yinka. In today's class we're going to be making this top. You'll be needing your fabric, your lining, and some interfacing. So I'm going to be using 2 yards of Ankara fabric. Then this other one is a crepe fabric and I'm going to be using 1 yard of it. Then I have some interfacing here. This is paper gum, and of course you'll be needing lining for this style. If you're making it exactly like on the picture, they use stone zip. You can see this stone zip, that's what they use there. But I don't have the color, I don't have color black right now, so I'm going to be using this one in place of it. So at first I'm going to be cutting the upper part of this blouse first, and I'm going to start with the front pattern. So let's get into it. So before I start my drafting, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to fuse this lining with my stay, and I'll also fuse the fabric also with my stay. So I'll do that. I've fused my lining with my stay. The first thing is for me to roll my starting point. So this tie is having a zipper in front. What this means is that I'm going to be having zip allowance in the front. So I'm going to be using 1 inch for my zip allowance. Then I'll roll it. Next thing is for me to put in my length measurement. So from the guideline, I'm going to measure down the length of my armhole. I'm using 9 inch for my armhole length. Then my nipple point is 10.5. My underbust length is 14. My waist length is 17 with ½ inch allowance. Then I'm going to go ahead and I will extend the lines. This is my guideline. This is my armhole length, my nipple point length, my underbust length, and my waist length, and also ½ inch for the same allowance. So on the guideline, I'm going to input my shoulder measurements divided by 2. My shoulder is 16 divided by 2, that will be 8 inches. And I'm starting my measurement from this line that I ruled. So my shoulder is 16 divided by 2, that will be 8 inches. So I'm going to go ahead, I will input 8 inches here. Then I'll also put that same measurement on this line, this armhole length, so that I can roll into a straight line. So I'm going to be inputting 3 inches neck width on this guideline, starting from this. So I'll measure 3 inches here. Then I'll come to the tip of the shoulder here. I'm going to measure 1 inch down. And I'm going to connect these 2 points together so that I can get my shoulder slope. Then I'm going to add ½ inch back to this line for the shoulder seam allowance. Because of the way the style is having a collar, so I'm going to be making the neck depth to be 3 inches. The neck width is also going to be the same 3 inches. So the neck width is 3 inches, which is here already. Then the neck depth is also going to be 3 inches. Then I'll connect these points together. That's the neckline. Next thing I'm going to do now is to input my measurement. I'll come to my armhole length. I'll locate the mid armhole starting from the 1 inch below the shoulder line. So I'll just locate the midpoint. Then I'll come to the nipple point line. I'll input my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2 plus ½ inch allowance. So my nipple to nipple is 8 inches divided by 2, that will be 4, plus ½ inch allowance, that will be 4.5. So I'm going to be measuring 4.5 starting from this line. And I'll rule this line to the waistline. Like this. Then from this point, connect it to the mid armhole. like this. All right, so the next thing is to input our dart. At this side of this line, I'm going to input 1/2 inch dart, and at this other side, I'm going to input 2 inches dart. And starting from the mid armhole, I'll come down by 2 inches. Please take note of that. So at this side of the line, I'll measure 1/2 inch for my dart intake. This underbust length, I'll also take 1/2 inch dart, and I'll connect both points to the nipple point. Like this. Then at this other side of this line, I'm going to take 2 inches dart, so 2 inches dart on the underbust line and also on the waist length. Then connect the 2 points together this way. Then from the underbust, use the curved part of your ruler to connect it to the nipple point this way. Then I'll come to the mid armhole. I'll come down by 2 inches. Then I'll connect from the nipple point to that 2 inches mark. Using the curved part of my ruler. Make sure you extend the line out of this armhole length by 2 inches. Like this. Hope is clear. Then you can go ahead and finish your armhole cuff by just placing the ruler, touching this 2 inches extension and touching the armhole length here. So our bustier is ready. The next thing now is to input our measurement. My bust measurement is 40 divided by 4, that will be 10 inches. I'll measure the distance of my dart that passed through this line, and I'm going to replace it back. And then I'm going to put my seam allowance. I'll come to the waistline. I will input my waist circumference measurement divided by 4. My waist circumference is 32 divided by 4, that will be 8 inches. Note, I'm taking my measurement from this line. Then I will measure the distance of my dart, and I'm going to replace it. And I'll put my seam allowance. Then I'll connect these points together. At the side seam, I'll come up by 1 inch so that I can slant the side seam so that I can match up with the back. Like connect it back to the dart leg this way. Can you see? So I'll go ahead now. I'll use this to cut out the Ankara fabric. Now we are going to be cutting the yoke, and you fold your material, you fold it into two. You fold it into two like this. Place the front pattern on top of the crepe material like this. Then I will trace out the neckline, also the shoulder, and also the armhole part like that. Then I will note my waist length also. Then I'm going to take this off. So if I remove it, this is what I have. So we are going to be doing some modifications to this. So from the shoulder here, you can measure the length of the armhole that you have there. Here I have exactly 4.5 inches. So I'm going to be adding 1.5 to that measurement like this. So we extend it by that 1.5 like this. Just connect it straight like this. Then the next thing you're going to do is to come to the waistline. You're going to be measuring 3 inches. You measure 3 inches. Then at this point where you have that your extension of the armhole, you also measure 3 inches. So the next thing you're going to do is to roll it. From here you roll it to the waistline, and then you connect it to that armhole this way. And yes, this is your yoke. This yoke is not a cutout yoke. You're going to be top stitching this yoke on top of the blouse. Go ahead and I'll cut it out. The next thing you're going to do is to cut lining for this so that you can use it to finish up this edge before you top stitch it on the main bodice. Or if you don't want to do that, if you don't want to line this, you can as well just notch this corner this way, and then you're going to be folding it. Just fold 1/4 inch inward and use your iron to press it so that you can now top stitch it to the main material. Alright, so if you fold the raw edges together, you have something like this. You can see how neat it is. Then you go ahead and top stitch it. But I'm just going to be cutting out lining because I believe it's going to be more neater. So I'll cut lining and I'll use it to turn this corner so that it can come out very well and very sharp. So I'll go ahead and I'll do that. So I've cut out the lining. You can see we have 2 pieces of each of them. Moving on to the back, I'll start by drawing out my guideline as well. I'm going to be measuring 1/2 inch because the center back is going to have joining for a better fit. There will be no zip at the back, please take note, but we're going to be joining the center back. So I'm using 1/2 inch for that joining. So the next thing now is to input my length measurement. My armhole length is 9 inches, same as I use in front. Then my waist length is going to be reduced by 1 because we already slanted the side seam in front by 1 inch. So my waist length is going to be reduced by 1. I use 17 inches for my waist length in front, so I'm going to go ahead and use 16 for the back. Then with 1/2 inch seam allowance, then I will extend these lines. So before I go ahead, I'm going to be slanting this allowance. So I'll come in by 1/2 inch. We know we already have 1/2 inch here. So from this 1/2 inch, I'll blend it back to this point like this, so that the back can balance very well. And I'll also come in again by 1/2 inch, starting from this line this way. I will input my shoulder measurement on this guideline. My shoulder is 16 divided by 2, that will be 8 inches. Starting from this line, I'll measure the 8 inches. I'll measure 3 inches for the neck width. I'll also be dropping the shoulder by 1. Then I'll connect the points together. Don't forget to add 1/2 inch to this line for the shoulder seam allowance. I'm going to input my measurements now. My bust is 40 divided by 4, that will be 10 inches. I'll measure the 10 inches with my seam allowance of 2 inches. I'll come to the waistline. I will input my waist circumference measurements divided by 4, which is 32 divided by 4, which is 8. 32 divided by 4 is 8. I'll put 8 inches. I'm going to be putting 1 inch dart. So I'll put the allowance for the dart, and I'll also put my seam allowance. Then I will connect these points together. Then I'll finish the armhole by just placing my French cuff this way, touching the armhole line. So the back pattern is almost ready. The next thing is to input our dart. Starting from this line, I'll measure my nipple to nipple distance, which is 8 inches divided by 2, that is 4. I'll measure the 4 inches. I'll roll it to this chest line. Then from the chest line, I'll come down by 1 inch. That's where my dart is stopping here. Then I'll take 1/2 inch dart on both sides of this line. Then I'll connect it together. So this is my dart. We're going to be placing notches so that when we are sewing, we just hold in the darts. And also I'm going to be putting the neck. The neck is 3 inches. The neck width is 3 inches in front, so we'll maintain the 3 inches here at the back also. Then the back neck depth is going to be 1/2 inch, so I'll measure the 1/2 inch and I'll connect it together this way. So the back pattern is also ready. So this is it. Don't forget to put your notching at the dart line, and don't forget to also notch the center back joining. And here are the side panels. So I'm going to be joining them together, right side to right side, and I'll repeat the same thing to the main body. I didn't part this because I'm going to be inserting bra cups. Don't forget to notch. So you're going to repeat the same step on the main fabric. Alright, so this is ready. The next thing now is for me to go ahead and I'll iron it. So I'm going to be inserting bra cups to the lining. The bottom part of your bra cup is going to start from your under bust, and make sure you pin the center to your nipple point. All right, so once it's properly pinned the way I've done it here, turn it and then you stitch all around. Just follow the seam allowance that is on the bra cup. The bra cup is having seam allowance. Then after sewing it, you're going to follow your dart line and top stitch the bra cup. So this is ready. Work on the yoke. So this is my yoke. So place them together, right side to right side. And you're going to be turning only this corner. This is the only place you're going to be stitching on. I'm sewing with 1/4 inch allowance. When you get to the corner, keep your needle in and rotate the fabric. I'll notch the corner, then I'll turn it to the good side. So you can see how neat the edge is now. So the next thing is for us to top stitch it on the main body, but we need to press it first. So you place the yoke, place it on top of it, make sure you align it properly, and then you're going to pin, or you can use hemming gum to hold it in place so that it will be easy for you to stitch on. Can you see? Do the same thing to the second side. So this is how it is. First I'll take to the sewing machine. Now I'll join the neck together and then join the zip allowance together before I will now top stitch on top of it so that it can be easy. First I'll join the neckline together this way, then I'll run it down to the waistline from that point. So please, when you're top stitching, ensure you do it the way I'm doing it, like this, so that you don't interfere with the cup area, so that the cup area is not going to be flat. So use pins to hold it in place the way I'm doing here. Can you see? So now I'll go ahead, I'll just top stitch it. So this is it. I've top stitched it. Can you see? So the next I'm going to do now is to use my lining to turn each panel. So match them together, right side to right side. You turn at the side seam and also you turn at the zip allowance part. Don't sew the neckline, don't sew the shoulder, don't sew the armhole, do not sew the waistline. The only two places you're going to be stitching together is the side seam and also the zipper side. I'll go ahead and I'll do that. Next is to turn it to the good side. This is it. I've pressed it and this is how it's looking. So if you check from the wrong side, this is how it looks from the wrong side. Can you see? Alright, so today I've shown you how to achieve this beautiful yoke. If you want to see the remaining part of the making of this beautiful blouse, let me know in the comment section so that I can upload the remaining part of the tutorial. How I made the sleeve, how I did the 3-step peplum and the collar. So the next I'm going to do now is to put collar and then I'll fix the zip. Bye.